As we look back on the past 12 months, we've seen meaningful advancements in lung cancer research. We've seen more people being screened. We've seen new treatment options that offer real hope to people living with this disease. It doesn't matter what role you play, you've been an incredible part of something really powerful.
So I'll be brave if you're brave.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to what is officially our last lung cancer living room of 2025. For those of you who may not know me, and I think everyone in the room does, but some of you online may not, I'm Danielle Hicks, and I am Chief Patient Officer here at Go-To for Lung Cancer. I've been doing this for a better part of 2 decades, and this meeting in particular since 2009. And it has evolved into the beautiful thing that it is today. So for those of you who are familiar, you know that typically during this meeting, we invite key opinion leaders to come in and talk about varying aspects of the disease, but we hold December to have celebratory conversations. You know, what happened in 2025 that we are happy about, that we want to celebrate, even if it was a challenge that we overcame, how did we overcome it, and how are we celebrating it today? So you're going to see me, you're going to listen to me talk quite a bit during this meeting about what's happened in the lung cancer landscape, you know, over these last 12 months, not only with Go-To and what we've been able to accomplish and the impact, the positive impact that we feel we've been able to have on our community, but what's happened outside of that with FDA approvals and some exciting things that are going on there. I'm going to jump in because, as you can see, especially for those of you who have spent some time here, I don't normally have these many pages. So there's a lot of things to celebrate from my perspective. And I hope that I'm sharing something new with you tonight that maybe you didn't know that you can celebrate right along with us. Before we get started, I do want to say that, you know, everything Go-To does, we do with purpose, and we do with the people in this community, those diagnosed, those at risk in mind. And so before we start anything new, it always, you know, begins with the question, is it good for the patient? And if the answer is yes, and we think that we're filling a gap and not reinventing a wheel, then we do what we need to do to get it done. And so I couldn't be more proud to work here. You know, I think a lot of you know that my mom, who we lost earlier this year, is co-founder of Go-To. And she started this with the purpose and with a single thought in her mind that if she could help even one person, then it was all worth it. And I am so proud to still be here almost 20 years later, doing this work, knowing it's gone way beyond just one person, and that we have been able to help tens of thousands of people with the support, the education, the empowerment, and the research that we are involved in. And that's a little bit about, you know, what we're going to talk about today. And you know, I also feel incredibly blessed to work with the Go-To team across the board, across departments. We've got some incredibly talented, smart, compassionate, dedicated, and motivated people that are behind the scenes. You guys get to see me, but you don't get to see most of the other 45 or so people that are working behind the scenes to ensure this excellence that I firmly believe we are providing. So I want to start a little bit and talking about our fundraising, community engagement, and marketing wins this year. You know, we exceeded goals across all of our fundraising sources and events, particularly our events. Some of you local here to the Bay Area were able to attend our gala that was just this past November in San Francisco. And it was to date, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, but the most successful gala we've had in the 20 years that we've been doing it. And that is all because of you and people like you who believe in and want to continue to support all of the work that we do. Our participation goals. So many of you may or may not know that we have an event series. It's a national event series around the country, where it's really intended, obviously for fundraising purposes, but also to connect the community, to bring the community together, to give folks an opportunity to meet others walking the walk and sharing lived experiences. And we also increase participation goals in those. Shine a light. You guys heard me talk about this in November. Katie Morello is here in the room tonight, and we had a record-breaking year. And for those of you who aren't familiar with our Shine a Light program, it happens always in November during Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and it is the largest national awareness campaign happening during LCAM that we know of. And we had 279 sites participating, shining a light in all 50 states, as well as 3 other countries. So we also shone our lights in Australia, Ireland, and Canada. We earned over 100 local and national media stories spotlighting go-to initiatives, our partnerships, including the Washington Post, and a letter to the editor on lung cancer screening gaps. And one of the things I'm most excited about, which 98% of the work was fulfilled and accomplished in 2025, and it's set to launch early in 2026, is our new website. So we have a brand new website launching hopefully mid to the end of January that's really modern in nature and is set up for the individual, wherever you are in your lung cancer experience. Again, whether you're at risk or diagnosed, to be able to easily find what you need when you need it. So we're really, really excited about that. One of the things I want to talk about, and this I think points back to, and I think there's maybe not a great understanding in our community about the work that we do within our healthcare delivery team. So we have an excellence in healthcare delivery team. The real true intention of the work that this team does is to help provide excellence in care in the communities where people live, right? We're out here in the Bay Area in California, and we have access to excellent treatments, right, at very large academic centers who have very large lung cancer specific programs, but that's not the case for 80% of the people who are diagnosed with this disease. So how can we help providers in communities around the country to either identify ones that are providing this excellence in healthcare delivery, but also to support those who maybe aren't quite there yet in building out these comprehensive lung cancer teams. So it really is a premier resource and a support hub for healthcare professionals in community where patients live. In 2025, we saw significant growth within this network, as well as some new designation expansions. So the Center of Excellence Network, which is under the healthcare delivery team, is designation based, and there's 2 sort of mothership designations that people can come in through. One is excellence in screening, and the other one is excellence in care. Once you've applied and been approved based on qualifying criteria to receive these designations, there are about 8 other designations that you can aspire to achieve, right? And so right now, we have launched what we call our IPN, or Incidental Pulmonary Nodule designations. And this was a gap that we had identified many years ago in recognizing and understanding that screening weren't where they needed to be, and a large percentage of people were being diagnosed incidentally. In other words, maybe they were in a car accident, or they fell off a horse, or maybe took a bad step and wound up having a CT scan for something else when their cancer was diagnosed. And one of the challenges with these incidental pulmonary nodules is the way within which they were not being followed, right? So it was obviously something that was left missed. Oh, you may have broken your hip. Let's go ahead and fix your hip. And then nobody's talking to you about a nodule that potentially needs to be followed. So we set up standards of care and workflows, particularly working with emergency room docs and ensuring that they are following these nodules when they come through. Excellence in biomarker testing. You've also heard me talk ad nauseum about biomarker testing at these meetings, and how we are not where we need to be when it comes to somebody being diagnosed with lung cancer and getting the appropriate diagnostic comprehensive biomarker testing in order to treat the person's cancer and not just a lung cancer. The next designation to roll out is around patient-centered research. So this is a designation where we are bringing research to the community centers, again, where these people are. We know when it comes to studies and trials that 50% of all happen in about 10 states. And that's not near enough to support the number of people who are diagnosed. So some of the other designations that we plan on rolling out in 2026 and beyond are multidisciplinary team management, smoking cessation, survivorship, equity in healthcare and healthcare delivery, and community engagement. All of this work and these designations include benchmarking. So where is X, Y, or Z center now? What does that look like? And then once these standards are implemented within the communities, pulling through key performance indicators to ensure that they are actually doing better. What do outcomes look like? Are the outcomes better when these proven, clinical sort of pathways are followed? So we're really, really proud of that. We held our Center of Excellence Summit just this past October in Denver this year, and we had 37 states represented this year. One summit attendee said, and I think this is really important because just like we say, people diagnosed don't often get to come together in a group like this and meet other people. I still meet people all the time who say they've never met another person diagnosed with lung cancer. Similarly, for the healthcare providers, particularly in the community setting. So one attendee said, the opportunity to meet other navigators and healthcare professionals across the spectrum of lung cancer care made a huge impact on me. I've never had that opportunity before, and it was incredibly helpful to make connections and learn from other attendees. I feel revitalized and excited to apply different aspects of what I've learned to my lung cancer program locally. So I think that speaks volumes about the benefit even to our healthcare community. Another piece of the work that that our healthcare delivery team does is lung cancer navigation. So you don't have to be a nurse to be a lung cancer navigator, right? Allied health professionals, people otherwise connected to hospitals and centers can be trained in patient navigation. And there's plenty of research to show that if a person is navigated appropriately through the entire process, that people just do better, both physically and emotionally. So this lung cancer navigation program is part of our Center of Excellence Summit. And we have a team that we really think is uniquely qualified to provide these navigators with the guidance and the tools that they need to implement lung cancer navigation specific work within their hospital centers. So we just held our third annual navigator workshop where we prepare, empower, and position these navigators for success. And then on November 8th, and this is something that we are also incredibly proud of, we published a first of its kind comprehensive guide for navigators and allied health professionals through Springer Nature. Springer is a well-known and widely respected publication source, and there's 22 chapters, including authors from across the lung cancer landscape, key opinion leaders, and also some people at GoTo who are also experts in their areas. I'm a proud author or co-author on one of the chapters in this publication, and in the first 4 weeks that it was available online for download, there were 20,000 downloads. So there's a huge need for this type of information and education for people like me who want to help people like you. And then the third piece to the work that they do is something called the Global Knowledge Center, affectionately called the GKC. And it's an education and learning hub for all lung cancer healthcare professionals. So we have national and global reach within this program. And it's really where GoTo hosts and supports both live events, as we discussed, the summit is one of them, but also live educational events, live webinars, and on-demand content. There's currently 70 on-demand courses and 5 live webinars. And our course enrollments just reached over 19,000 enrollees as of December 1st. So again, a big, performance indicator of how large the need is for this type of support. PSS, which is, the work that I oversee with an incredible team of individuals. I think most of you who participate in the living room are familiar with a lot of the programs, education and support that we provide in various ways. And, the work that we do is really set up to support anyone at risk or diagnosed. And we believe our efforts help people to better understand what it is they've been diagnosed with, how to not only manage it clinically, but also how to support someone through the entire journey. And I hate calling it a journey. A journey should be some really cool, I don't know, Mount Everest trip or something, but not cancer. But it is an experience, and so we think that we are set up, and of course, we always want feedback from the community, but we think we're set up in various ways to help support this community. I think a lot are familiar with our education materials and the library of materials that we have, again, covering everything from at-risk through, diagnosis, biomarker testing, and survivorship and beyond. We have made a commitment earlier in this year and plan on expanding on that next year, and that has to do with partnerships. So we know can't do this alone, right? And I think we've partnered over, the years with other organizations, obviously with researchers, with academic centers, with large community centers, but partnering in more meaningful ways, true partnerships and true collaborations. So one of the things that we kicked off this year was with multiple biomarker groups from around the country who have gathered together around their biomarkers. And I know, Rick, you're, really involved in ALK positives and others involved in other areas to create these co-branded educational pieces that we can collectively share with our communities. So these high-level one-pagers, are intended to talk, again, at a high level about what an ALK, and I'm using ALK because I'm looking at Rick, but what an ALK positive lung cancer diagnosis means, the importance of biomarker testing, what therapies are approved for this type of a diagnosis, and then how GoTo and the ALK positive group can support you collectively. We have shipped over 55,000 pieces of material just in 2025. So again, I think it shows the need for this type of information. The biomarker groups, I do want to call them out, our partners. So it was ICANN, the Met Crusaders, ALK positives, BRAF bombers, the Happy Lung Project, the N Trackers, the RET positives, and the Ross Wonders. Thank you so much. Big shout out to you guys for the collaborative efforts and the support you provided to those of us at GoTo in order to make this a possibility. So the living room, we're all sitting in it. We know what this meeting's intended for. Key opinion leaders, I opened up talking about this. Some of the things we implemented this year that we're excited about, and Michelle played a huge role in this, was our registration platform. Also for our virtual attendees, there's had been a tendency historically for us not to be quite as connected or have the ability to be quite as connected because we don't necessarily always know who's tuning in and watching live. We began proactive partnership engagement. A lot of you were in the room a couple of months ago when we invited the Young Lung Cancer Initiative, Leah and Bianca in particular, along with a couple of patients, to come and talk about their unique experience being diagnosed at such young ages and the reach and the impact we can have in some of these sub-communities, such as young lung cancer, is really made possible through programming like this. We had 15 meetings this year, lung cancer living room meetings. And I do want to give another shout out to Michelle, who, this is an event. This is a 2+ hour event. We might only be live, for an hour and change, but it's an event that we host every year. And she is the coordinator of speakers, the logistics guru, working with Penn Media, the film crew who comes in here and helps us every year. And so, like I said, we had 15, so the 12 regularly scheduled meetings here in this room, but we also had a regional meeting in South Florida. We had a rapid response meeting when the executive orders came out. And again, we're going to talk about that a little bit when we talk about some of our work in advocacy, but also South America, and that with the International Association, the Study of Lung Cancer, and their Latin America conference for the last 4 or 5 years now, Michelle. I'm not sure. Is it 4 years? We've been invited to host a living room down in South America. So we're really proud of this programming. It's one of our longest standing programs, and we also feel like it's meeting a need. As of December 1st in this year, we had 50,000 views in 148 countries. The countries piece, I think, is really important too, because this is not just a US-based need. The access to information provided in the way that we are able to provide it, brought down at a level that most people can understand. Mind over matter, I think some of you have participated, but it's a new program. It's our first full year of Mind over Matter. And we talk a lot about the clinical aspects, what that looks like, what sort of education and empowerment people might need. But we talk less about the emotional aspects and the big feelings that come along with a cancer diagnosis. And so Mind Over Matter is a 5-week program that's run through the support team. Sarah runs that, and she's an oncology social worker. She's out on the East Coast, and she's been doing this for a long time. And she brought this program to us in an incredibly meaningful way over this 5 weeks, providing tips, tricks, and tools to help people when they are having those low moments and those bad days, and they're not sure how to necessarily manage, again, some of those big feelings. So excited that we had a full year of Mind Over Matter. Our Phone Buddy program, there's also phone buddies in this room. We currently have 114 Phone Buddy volunteers, so people just like you who have been living with lung cancer for many years, who are further down the road, a one-on-one perspective. And the way the team pulls that together is really to match people as closely as possible in age and demographic and lifestyles, in type of lung cancer, and so on. Gathering Hope, which is also run by Michelle, and I think a lot of you have also participated. That is also a monthly meeting that is virtual. And it was created with you all in mind, further foster this community engagement and learning and supporting one another. It's wildly successful. I think we grew registration by 20% this year. It's once a month for about 90 minutes. But what about the science and research, right? Like, what's really going on there? This is sort of the meat. And I think what people get most excited about, it's like that, what's next? I know what my plan A was, my plan B, sometimes my plan C, but what happens after that? We really try to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening there, not only with research that GoTo is directly involved in, but what are other people doing as well. So through our direct to patient navigation, including understanding biomarker testing, personalized medicine, and access to clinical trials, research collaborations with both academic and community and industry partners, our GoTo-led studies through our sister organization, Alchemy, or the Adario Lung Cancer Medical Institute. We truly believe that GoTo is a catalyst for these life-saving treatments, paving the way for potential cures. So this is where I'm really going to have to look down and read. But we're going to talk a little bit about clinical research, both internally and externally. As a result of our clinical research, our internal clinical research team's efforts, over 23 clinical sites were involved in implementing active lung cancer research studies covering topics across the lung cancer continuum. Our community engaged research programs touched over 750 members of the lung cancer community in programs designed to raise awareness about lung cancer screening, biomarker testing, and clinical trials, particularly in underserved communities. Our registry completed its first full year under a brand new platform under the Vibrant, and now boasts over 3,000 participants. So for those of you who might not know about our registry, it's a place where you can effectively donate your data, tell us your story, answer questions that can help researchers better understand the patient experience so that we can create better, more personalized trials based on experience. We just launched our new risk survey. Long Match, which I think a lot of you are familiar with, is our program where we have in-house navigators from the science and research team who not only help you understand biomarker testing and results at diagnosis, but in the event of progression, what that looks like. And then the yeoman's work that they do helping folks look for clinical trials, which I think if any of you have been on clinicaltrials.gov, it's nearly impossible to navigate and understand what trials not only might be appropriate for you, but what might, you or might you not qualify for. So Lung Match did grow by over 20% this year. And 30% of the people who connected with Lung Match are confirmed to have successfully enrolled in clinical trials. This is more than 4 times the national average of people who are able to successfully enroll. So this type of personalized navigation and understanding, it has proven itself 4 times over to be a worthwhile effort. 2 of our Alchemy supported research studies, the epidemiology of young lung cancer, and a study for patients with KRAS drug resistance called SPARK. They both closed for enrollment. Abstracts have been written and submitted, and we're preparing to present some really exciting findings at AACR in April of 2026. So stay tuned for that. Particularly, when I think about the epidemiology of young lung cancer, we've been doing a lot of work in the young lung cancer space over the last 12, 15 years. And each time we run a different study, we find out something different, important, and that nobody else was looking at that has great and direct impact immediately in this space. And not only on the people who might be, diagnosed young. I wouldn't currently qualify based on the young number. It's people 50 and under. But the impact that can have on everyone once we really dig in deep and start looking is pretty exciting. So be on the lookout for that announcement come April. The Inherit study, which I know you guys have heard me talk about here before, we launched a while back. It's got 3 arms associated with it. I am a participant in the Inherit study. It's also an Alchemy supported study. We passed the 300 participant mark, which we're really excited about, and we're well positioned to hit our goal of 500 participants by the end of next year. Using a patient-friendly participate from home or decentralized trial design, which most, if not all, of the studies through Alchemy are, really allows us to bring the study to you. So using Inherit as an example, I didn't have to leave my kitchen to participate in this study. I had to fill out some, questionnaires, and then a phlebotomist came to my home in my kitchen, drew my blood, it got sent off, and I was enrolled. So Succeed study is a go-to-initiated study, again, in partnership with Alchemy and others, which really aims to create this biobanking resource specific to small cell lung cancer. You guys have also heard me talk about how small cell lung cancer has been left behind, if you will, in relation to all the progress that we've seen in non-small cell. So we're really hoping to create the gold, if you will, which is the biobanking of bloods for people specific to small cell. Collectively, our research team, as well as our healthcare delivery team and our patient support services team, contributed to over 25 scientific abstracts and manuscripts in 2025. So we submitted, we were accepted, and we presented on 25 different areas of focus, as well as having 12 community-based presentations in various conferences around the country. This is outside of GoTo, and that is in 2025, there were 8 new lung cancer FDA approvals. So 2 of them were in small cell lung cancer, 1 was in CMET, 1 in ROS1, 1 in EGFR, 1 in EGFR exon 20, and 2 in HER2. So you guys have heard me say, over and over, lung cancer 20 years ago when I first started was really one disease, and we were throwing pasta at the wall. Same thing at everybody, and let's see who it works for and who it doesn't. And we know so much more now, here 20 years later, and literally every couple of months something new is being approved. And I think it's incredibly exciting and just shows how lung cancer has gone from that one diagnosis to a series of really rare diseases, biomarker driven diseases. And that includes, immunotherapies and who they do and who they don't work for. I have a laundry list if anybody's interested in knowing what those approvals were. But I'm not going to read through all of that right now, but I'll have this as a leave behind, and Michelle can obviously give it to anybody online who might be interested. So the next thing I want to talk about is advocacy. There's something really exciting happening for us and for our community in March. So advocacy is really about standing up, being visible, and being heard. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about promoting change and not accepting the status quo. And it's about taking a public stand for the causes and the issues that are meaningful to our community. So all year long, our advocacy team is working with lawmakers and public health officials, advocating for funding, awareness, research, coverage, and support for all people at risk and living with lung cancer. And every action counts. Thanks to the research that we're just, talking about, the number of people losing their lives from a lung cancer diagnosis has decreased by 23% in the last 8 years, which is not enough, right? We want it to be more, but it's something. And I think it points right back to research equaling progress. We talked about the 8 treatments that were approved, and there have been more treatments approved in the last 10 years than in the last 60. So then in the last 10 years, then in more than over a half a century, that's how fast and furious things are happening. And that's exciting. And that is hopeful. And I'm not sure if any of you noticed, but during Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and I was paying really close attention, the urgency felt more real this year behind all of the things I was seeing coming out from all of the lung cancer community around people standing up, people taking a stand, people saying, look at me. I have lung cancer and lung cancer matters. We saw a shift in mass media campaigns in the US, but not limited to the US, really around the world. Many of the stories were driven by community messaging. And a recent study, in fact, showed that the number of unnecessarily deaths would be incredibly significant if lung cancer screening were age-based, as some of the other screening criteria are, without the restrictive eligibility requirements that are currently tied based on USPSTF recommendations. Because it's not that way for lung cancer, we miss an extraordinary amount of lung cancers because these people simply don't qualify for screening. And you guys have also heard me preach about anyone can get lung cancer. I don't have to tell you that. You all know it, right? And you've also heard me say to you, because the majority of the people that will, that participate, particularly in the support and education programs that my team and I provide, you've already got lung cancer, right? That's why you're here. So the screening thing feels a little less important, but I cannot express enough how important it is. You are all ambassadors, right? You are all ambassadors for why screening is important. We have to stand up, we have to change the guidelines, and we have to affect change, because we know that that is literally what is going to flip diagnosis and outcomes on its head. A statistic that I don't think I've shared in a long time, but when we look at people diagnosed without smoking history, so we know that lung cancer as a general whole is the largest cancer, and it's the number one, sadly, cancer killer. And I hate using those words when I got this big hope behind me, but it's the reality, right? For a lot of people. Never smoking lung cancer is number 5 globally. And when you think about the sheer numbers of solid tumor and blood cancers that are out there, for it to be number 5 and to still be as ignored as it has been historically. And again, I'm not discounting the hard work that's been done. I don't want anybody to be like, but we're right, because that matters and it's important. And it is, we've seen this over the last 10, 15 years in particular, this fast forward momentum, but it's still not enough. And if we aren't championing and talking about this, who will? Who will? So getting back to advocacy, our Voices Summit is coming up in Washington, D.C., March 1st through 3rd. As you may or may not know, and I think most of us do, because you've also heard me complain about this, our federal research dollars for lung cancer were zeroed out in 2025. So through the congressionally directed, mandated lung cancer research program, the CDMRP, the lung cancer research program where all the funding funnels through lives under the CDMRP. And, we were sort of waiting with bated breath, no pun intended, to see what was going to happen with some of the funding cuts that we knew were going to come specifically under the DoD, or the Department of Defense, which is where, ironically, the CDMRP lives. So when we found out that there was going to be a percentage cut, we thought, I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe there's 13 different disease sets that live under the CDMRP. Lung cancer is one of them. We thought it was going to be split sort of equally across all of those disease sets, and that is in fact not what happened. Several of them, including lung cancer, were zeroed out. So this coming year, and this is again where I have to read, GoTo has partnered, and I will reiterate, nobody can do this alone. This is it. We need to create and really mean and pull together a united front when it comes to not just what I'm talking about right now on the Hill and advocacy, but across the board. So we've partnered with multiple organizations around the country, and I'm going to list those out too. ALK Positives, the Biomarker Collective, BRAF Bombers, EGFR Resistors, the Exon 20 Group, the Happy Lung Project, the International Cancer Advocacy Network, Lung Cancer Foundation of America, Live Lung, Lung Cancer Research Foundation, the Met Crusaders, the MRG1 Energizers, the PDL1 Amplifieds, and the White Ribbon Project. We are continuing to have conversations and anticipating more, but we're coming together in March in DC to have this united front. And the number one ask from all of us, again, from our community collectively, is going to be to restore funding to the lung cancer research program. There's a lot of, advocacy groups, lung cancer advocacy groups, around the country, and we all know them, right? There's Longevity. I mentioned, Lung Cancer Research Foundation and others in here that have, I don't want to say not aligned agendas, because all of the work and our legislative efforts are very, very relevant, whether it's around women and lung cancer, which has been a go-to sort of agenda item for years, whether it's around screening and early detection, whether it's around biomarker testing and access. It's all relevant. So not only are we coming with a united front, but the plan is to have leave behinds, right? Where everybody's voices get to be heard based on what their legislative agendas might be collectively. So I, for one, am incredibly excited about this. And Elridge, who is our senior director and oversees all of our lawmaking and efforts over there on the Hill, might not be happy to hear me say, advocacy historically was, although I recognized it as a priority, it wasn't a personal priority for me. And in particular, over the last few years, it's become incredibly personal to me. When we talk about research and the impact it has, and we look at other diseases, and we look at breast cancer in particular, we want to be breast cancer. It's because of the federal funding and those monies that went into research that breast cancer is where it is today, right? Not for everyone. There's still some really sad and tragic, diagnoses that happen within that community. But when you look holistically and statistically, it's because of the research. So I personally invite anybody who wants to come out to DC to come out. I will be there. Our partners will be there. Other patients, advocates, caregivers will also be there to hit the Hill and talk to, again, our lawmakers across all 50 states is our goal, to have participation and representation from all 50 of our states. So this has been a lot. I've been talking at all of you for, I don't have my watch on, but for a minute now. And I guess what I hope you take away from this conversation that is truly meant to be celebratory is that as we look back on the past 12 months, there's so much to acknowledge. We barely touched the surface here tonight. We've seen meaningful advancements in lung cancer research. We've seen more people being screened, not enough, but more. We've seen new treatment options that offer real hope to people living with this disease. And just as importantly, we've shared these moments of honesty, of learning, of strength and connection, and we've done it together with one another, for one another, in spirit and love and connections with one another. And I think that is one of the biggest takeaways for me. Those of you who are veterans to this meeting have heard me say before, 20 years ago, you were hard pressed to find a lung cancer community as it is today. I mean, you just were. And so I, for one, feel incredibly honored and proud to be part of this community along with all of you. Every story, every question, and every voice this year has helped move our mission forward. Every single one. I don't care if it's something that you did publicly or something that you shared amongst, the friends that you have in your community, conversations you've had with your healthcare providers. It's mattered. And whether you're living with lung cancer, whether you're supporting a loved one who has had a diagnosis, whether you're a healthcare provider, whether you're advocating for change up on the Hill or otherwise, whether it doesn't matter what role you play, you've been an incredible part of something really powerful that, again, I'm incredibly proud to be a part of with all of you. Before I wish everyone a happy holidays and we get on with our feast, our beautiful feast that Michelle has put together, and this beautiful dessert table, and of course the wine that I plan on partaking in when this is over, I just want to reopen the floor to any comments, and that includes the online community. If anybody has anything that they want to share, and there's no pressure at all. Nobody will even, I see Rick looking for a mic. You can always count on Rick.
Thank you. So I'd like to talk a little bit about clinical trials. I've been on 2 of them now. First one was back in 2016 for 2.5 years. I'm on the current one now for a little over 2 years. And without people doing clinical trials, the work going forward will not happen. And the good side of doing a clinical trial is you can leave at any moment. So there's really no downside. And you can also, you're theoretically getting the latest and greatest of whatever. So if you have a little trust in your team, you have a good team, hopefully, and can get involved in clinical trials to push the research forward, then you can be like me and just, all you have to do is live to get to the next best thing. And then live till you get to the next best thing. And then live till you get to the next best thing. I'm on my 6th protocol since I got diagnosed back in 2014. And I'm still here enjoying life. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Rick, for as always for participating and sharing your stories. And I want to thank you and others, anyone really who has participated in clinical trials, because I don't think the people who participants get thanked enough. Quite often they go in and hopefully they have outcomes like you, and it is the next best thing. But it is a thankless, right, sort of position to be in. So thank you for your participation.
Well, and also the upside is you really get looked at. It may take up some of your time, which is a little annoying, but you get extra scans, extra studies actually on you. So if something is to go sideways, you'll know about it sooner. Then you can deal with it sooner. So in reality, it's really good to do clinical trials, not only for everyone else because you're pushing it forward, but also for yourself because you're being greedy taking it. Works both ways.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Happy holidays, everyone. Celebrating with your loved ones, with your neighbors, with your pets, however you do it. I'm really excited about 2026. I think even bigger and better things are going to continue to happen. And for that, again, I am incredibly grateful. We're looking forward to connecting with all of you, obviously, in the new year and beyond. And please remember that we're always here. There are no stupid questions. There are no silly questions. There are no silly ideas. Again, we don't claim to know everything there is to know. You all are the ones that are walking the walk. So if there are gaps that have yet to be filled and they need filling, have a conversation with us. Because like I said, when I opened this up, if it's good for the patient, we're gonna find out a way to get it done. So a huge thank you to all of you, again, to Penn Media for coming in and setting up hours before this meeting is pulled together. For all of you in the room, all of you, watching live, those of you who will watch post live, Onyx and Ash, we have our very own James Hall who blessed us with his presence today. James manages all our videography on the back end and photography. So he's the one responsible for splicing and dicing and editing these live videos for public consumption post live, and we're thrilled that he came down. Michelle Zay, obviously, and the entire GoTo team. I meant it when I said it at the beginning. I've never worked with a more committed and dedicated group of incredibly smart people. So no, we all have your backs. And then I have to do this part because we couldn't bring this to you without the support. So AbbVie, Amgen, AstraZeneca, Bayer, Boehringer, Ingelheim, Bristol Myers Squibb, Foundation Medicine, Genentech, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Novartis, Novocure, Regeneron, Revolution Medicine, Summit Therapeutics, and Takeda Oncology. Thank you for believing in us and believing that this type of programming is important for our community. Let's drink wine, and we'll see you guys in 2026.
So I'll be brave if you're brave. I'll be brave, but only if